This is video number 4 of the final chapter, chapter 4 in Brotherhood of Darkness. First, he discussed the possibility that an unknown person killed Crossetti, but he promptly ruled out that theory. Then he noted that each of the passengers had both a motive and an opportunity to commit the crime, and suggested that all of them were involved. When he finished his presentation, several of the passengers began to weep, while others sat stoically, realizing their plot had been discovered. They had all participated in the murder because Crossetti had escaped punishment. Suddenly, Inspector Poirot changed his line of reasoning and announced that he planned to tell the police that the killer must have escaped, since it was ridiculous to suggest they were all guilty. As the movie ended, the passengers breathed a collective sigh of relief and began to celebrate their success. What does Agatha Christie's story have to do with the Brotherhood of Darkness? It has everything to do with it. All of the groups listed in Chapter 2 are working to establish a new world order and a new world religion, with the exception of the Jews as a race. Our enemy is not a race or a religion. It is a spiritual movement that involves people of all races and all religions, including some apostate Jews. How can we understand what is happening today? I am about to reveal a secret that has eluded most researchers and most historians. Professor Quigley told us that Cecil John Rhodes created a secret society to bring the uncivilized world under the control of the British Empire and reunite the United States with England. Frank Adelot, the American director of the Rhodes Trust, added that Rhodes wanted to organize so great a power as to hereafter render wars impossible. That concept gradually evolved into the current effort to unify the world. Professor Quigley believed Rhodes' idea originated with Professor John Ruskin, who taught art appreciation at Oxford University during the early years of the second half of the 19th century. Professor Quigley told us that Cecil Rhodes attended Professor Ruskin's inaugural lecture in 1870, copied the lecture in longhand, and carried it with him the rest of his life. That is true, but the most important part of the story has been ignored. Professor Quigley failed to grasp the significance of the fact that John Ruskin was an occultist. Through the centuries, some men and women have sought the forbidden knowledge, and if they discovered it, they fulfilled their obligation by dedicating their lives to uniting the world. Plato advocated that goal, and John Ruskin read Plato every day. When Cecil Rhodes heard Professor Ruskin's clarion call, he was consumed with a desire to dedicate his life to uniting the world. Others who fell under Ruskin's influence joined him, but most of them were under the influence of another power, the second most important power in the world. Earlier, I quoted part of Cecil Rhodes' Confession of Faith, but I left out the most important part. He wrote, "In the present day, I become a member of the Masonic Order. I see the wealth and power they possess, the influence they hold, and I think over their ceremonies, and I wonder that a large body of men can devote themselves to what at times appears the most ridiculous and absurd rites without an object and without an end. The idea gleaming and dancing before one's eyes like a will-o'-the-wisp at last frames itself into a plan. Why should we not form a secret society with but one object, the furtherance of the British Empire for the bringing of the whole uncivilized world under British rule, for the recovery of the United States, for making the Anglo-Saxon race but one empire. Although Cecil Rhodes never understood the Masonic rites or the significance of the oaths he took, he remained in the lodge because it gave him access to the money he needed to purchase the gold and diamond mines of southern Africa. If you study the lives of those who joined him, you will discover that most of them were either Freemasons, spiritualists, theosophists, or members of the Society for Psychical Research. Lord Milner was a 33rd degree Mason, William T. Stead was a spiritualist and a theosophist, and Arthur Balfour was a spiritualist, a Mason, and a member of the Society for Psychical Research. What most researchers have missed is the fact that most of the men who joined Cecil Rhodes' secret society were involved in the occult. Professor Quigley discussed the two power blocks that controlled Great Britain during the early decades of the 20th century. One was led by Lord Cecil, the other by Lord Milner. Professor Quigley wrote, "One of the enduring creations of the Cecil bloc is the Society for Psychical Research, which holds a position in the history of the Cecil bloc similar to that held by the Royal Institute of International Affairs in the Milner Group. The society was founded in 1882 by the Balfour family and their in-laws. In the 20th century, it was dominated by those members of the Cecil bloc who became most readily members of the Milner Group. Thus we learn that most of those who joined the Milner Group were members of the Society for Psychical Research. According to the international edition of the Encyclopedia Americana, the society was organized to study occultism. Lord Tennyson's uncle, the Balfour family, and their in-laws formed the Society for Psychical Research, and Alfred Lord Tennyson was a member." And we will stop this video right here. This was video number 4 of the final chapter in Brotherhood of Darkness, and we will pick up in the next video with video number 5, and I will see you there. This book is winding down. Maybe 3 videos left to go, possibly, maybe 4, not sure, we'll see.